So welcome everybody here to the Martin Segal Theater Center at the Graduate Center CUNY. My name is Frank Henschker and I'm the director of the Segal Center. We bridge traditionally academia and professional theater and international music. I said, can you take off the music? Even so it sounds most probably much better. So we bridge academia and professional theater, international and American theater, but we care very much and very, very deeply about the New York theater scene, especially the independent scene, experimental work on the forefront of contemporary theater. Everybody who knows our work and Prelude and what we do for over 20 years knows that. We did a panel last fall. It was on producing, how to get into what we have to think about. It's not a good time in some way for the theater, but also it's a good time to start things. And Brecht, who we at least admire so much in Germany, said, what do we talk about or do we sing about in the dark times? We do sing about the dark times, and actually often these days fiction produces work, new work, but it's so hard. It has always been very, very hard in New York City, but I think right now everybody who is engaged in it should be applauded, supported, and it is important to create a community and to say that there is a lot happening against all these articles, so many doom sayers who say, it's no longer how it used to be, there's no ideas, there's no innovation, it's going backwards. I think we feel very strong as always in such great cities as New York, such diverse cities, there is a mass of ideas, of creativity, and we're going to look at it, especially tonight, to think about the festivals, of which we think are one of the pillars of our community, where work is being shown. It creates a special atmosphere. Often international guests come, so news travels faster, and it creates an excitement, perhaps a little bit closer to sports than the normal theater going, as great as it is, of course. But we are great fans of festivals. We're even thinking putting up a little one of our own. But so we have tonight 10 festival goers with us, and I think it's quite a great collection of festivals who we have here. You all saw the announcement, I don't have to say it. We're going to have 2 panels, 2 participants, 2 times 5 participants, and then we have a larger panel where everybody will join, and you can all ask questions. Here at the Segal, the idea to have a real conversation, to go back and forth with the audience is really part of our work, so it's not just an add-on, so this is very important to us. I would like to welcome our viewers on HowlRound, Vijay and Thea. Thank you for putting us up. Many, many people are watching online, also internationally. People are interested in what's going on in New York City, what is on people's minds, and we hear a little bit more. So I have the first panel with me, and we have Tommy here from Under the Radar, Elena, Siyanko from the Down to Earth Festival. We have Manuel from if I say it right, the Puppet Fringe, the International Puppet Fringe Festival. Edward Einhorn, whose festival is just starting, a festival for the Jews. And we have Ars Nova with Jay Stull, who is with us here. So let's go right away. And maybe we start with you, 1 or 2 minutes of an introduction, if you have something. And Anna is here with us. We can show the images, but we decided not to do the full 4 or 5 minute videos. It would be too long. Tell us a little bit, Tommy, what is the idea of Under the Radar? What has changed, and what are you doing in it?
Sure. Tommy Kriegsmann from Under the Radar. As many of you know, Under the Radar was formerly at the Public Theater, been forcibly evacuated, and is now a citywide iteration. So things have changed significantly for the festival and how the festival does things. I think the goal remains the same, international gathering of the most progressive work we can possibly get our hands on, and a picture of the sort of global sphere as best we can accomplish, and to do something that also, now that we are this multi-institutional partner base, something that pushes those partners to a place that they may not otherwise go. And that remains very important for us fundamentally to how we make choices and how we collaborate with these institutional partners, and how we make the decisions in the end about what we are prioritizing and how we're doing that and how we build the program. And as well, more of an emphasis as we go on, probably a great deal to do with my own background, but that we are supporting the development of new work, and to doing that in a way that is a deeper base for how we move work forward and support artists and artists' visions. As far as the deep consolidation that's going on, especially in the experimental realm for the development of new work, we feel a responsibility to do as much as we possibly can to be able to move that work forward and push it forward and help it have a life going forward as well.
Thank you. So how long is the festival? How many shows?
Last year we did 35 shows across 30 venues, or 26 venues, and it's 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks.
And there was a New York, a local or US present part was how much? How many shows?
Good question. I think probably, I believe maybe we had 10 international presentations amongst that 35.
Okay, so 25 from here. Thank you, Tommy.
Thank
Elena, you were at PS 21 Upstate, run a great place. Tell us a little bit about you and your work.
Hi, I'm Elena Siyanko, co-founder and director of Down to Earth Festival, the first global New York City-wide festival of multidisciplinary creation in public spaces. I first want to welcome all of my colleagues and Frank's colleagues and say that how much we admire the work of anybody who runs a festival of innovative experimental work, new work, develops new work, just commanding your moral ambition, because in the current climate, not just current climate, it's been the current climate, quote unquote, for years now in New York City, but you are all doing amazing work, and that commitment is absolutely incredible. So thank you for coming to this panel. I'm also welcoming everybody on behalf of the Segal Center, where I currently work now with Frank and our colleagues. And as Frank mentioned, I used to I was the inaugural executive and artistic director of PS21, Center for Contemporary Performance upstate in the Hudson Valley, until recently. The idea for Down to Earth has been brewing for a while in Frank's mind, and it dovetails very much with the kind of work we were presenting at PS21. The essential thread is work, multidisciplinary work presented in partnership with New York City parks, community organizations, and also CUNY stages. And the work presented free of charge, but very much what's behind it is a reimagination of public space. And it's been a while that the motto of our thinking and work was from somebody who also is at CUNY Graduate Center, Claire Bishop, that we do not need another cultural venue. We need to defend, and we need a public assembly. So that's where the impetus to set up this festival comes from. How do we reclaim public space? How do we make New York City more livable? And also the work, of course, will involve a number of international productions.
Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Manuel Moran. I'm the producer and the founder of the International Puppet Fringe Festival. We have to give a very brief, and we're actually, the festival happened on the Lower East Side at the Clemente Soto Vélez Cultural Center. It's a Puerto Rican Latino multicultural space with venues, galleries, artist studios. I was the vice president of UNIMA. UNIMA is like the international, it's actually one of the oldest theatrical associations, and more than 100 countries belongs to UNIMA, and I was the vice president of that organization for many, like almost 10 years, and it's a puppetry organization, by the way, I'm sorry, it's the International Association of Puppeteers. So I travel around 35 countries while I was while I was the vice president, and obviously there's hundreds of puppet festivals around the world, and everywhere I will go, Asia, Australia, Russia, and anywhere, people will say, you're from New York, and there's hardly festivals in the United States, puppet festivals. What's going on? There's a lot of puppetry there, and there's hardly festivals. They didn't understand how difficult is to, that we don't have government support, enough government support to put together a festival. And I participated in the first theater Fringe festival in New York City, and that happens actually at the Clemente, the center where I have my theater there. I run the Latino Children's Theater, Teatro Sea there. So I remember, obviously the format. Obviously was very familiarized with the Fringe style of festivals, and I realized that there was no puppetry Fringe festival. And we have venues, we have marketing, we can offer a platform to artists around the world and local artists, puppeteers. So I decided to embrace that formula, and that's how we did the Puppet Fringe Festival. Yes.
Fantastic. Thank you.
I'm Edward Einhorn, and I run the Rehearsal for Truth International Theater Festival, which runs, it's going to be our 8th year coming up at the Bohemian National Hall on the Upper East Side. So the Bohemian National Hall is the home of the Czech Center and the Czech Consulate. It's also the home of the Václav Havel Center, which is one of the sponsors of this event, and the Bohemian Benevolent and Literary Association, which was the other sponsor. And what we do is work that relates to Central and Eastern Europe, and in some way continues the legacy of Václav Havel. So whether that is artistic legacy, political legacy, human rights, whatever that might be. We have two sort of separate events, but they're related. Right now we're in the middle of our reading series, which is we take plays from the era this year is Ukraine, Lithuania, Estonia, and the Czech Republic, and then we use American actors to present it, and then the main festival, which will be start May 26th, go to June 15th, will be pretty much every day, and it's plays that most of them are coming in from Central or Eastern Europe. And there was one show that we're doing that's sort of a more full production. That's a Czech play called Blood, Sweat, and Queers that is about a runner who from the 30s who won the women's world record in track and then transitioned to male. And that one's going to get a longer run. It's going to be sort of intermittent through it. But the rest of it is, we have like 11 countries, 19 shows at that time. Okay, thanks.
Hi, my name is Jay Stull. I'm here on behalf of Ars Nova. I have many roles at Ars Nova, but one of them is producing AntFest. That's an acronym. It's not a festival for ants, but it stands for All New Talent. It's a festival that happens every June. We showcase 14 plays, pieces of comedy, puppetry, all sorts of different inter-genre theatrical presentations for one night only in our theater on West 54th Street. It has about 87 seats. It's a wonderful theater with a lot of really high-tech gadgets, and things look really great. We give artists the entire theater for one day to put up their show, 3 hours of tech, 2 hours of rehearsal. It's a presenting model, but it is the way that Ars Nova identifies new artists that will potentially be part of our commissioning structure or our residencies. So we're interested in AntFest, in the work that the theater generally is interested in, work that challenges what it means to be on stage, and that doesn't fit into any one categorical box.
Fantastic, thank you. Thank you so much, and as Elena said, truly all our respect. In our views, they are artists. It's kind of a social artwork, a social engaged practice, to communicate, to be catalyst, a translator, and creating opportunities. We think the art of the programmer, curator is so very important, and often they also run by people who over decades survey the field and serve as a memory machine. To you, what do you guys think the city needs right now, and how do you contribute with your festival towards it? Open to anyone.
I think the city needs a means to gather around progressive art in a major way. I think they need new abilities to gather, new modes of gathering, and I think they need to be. I think they need to be where they are, and I think that's something that Under the Radar as a citywide iteration is able to accomplish.
I think that one of the things the festival seems to be doing this year is giving people an outlet to think about and talk about what's going on in the world. There are lots of places that are sort of hot spots, but Central and Eastern Europe is one of them. And starting with the piece from Ukraine and such, there's been, we usually have post-show discussions. And I think it's just a way to engage in the world and engage in what's going on in America in terms of seeing the parallels throughout the Central and Eastern European region, both in the past and today.
I would say maximalism. I think, at least at Ars Nova, I'm interested in bigness and unapologetic existence. I think when we're on our phones and we learn about this growing authoritarianism, we consider potentially what it might be like to shrink ourselves or to silence ourselves. And so I think what our festival seeks is an amplification of what's loud and big and unapologetic.
I think even though the term diversity is under attack right now, I think we need to continue celebrating diversity. And New York is like the center. So many people say this is the center of the world, but sometimes we're like all, thinking about ourselves, and bringing artists from other countries. It's schooling for everyone. We need to see what's happening all over the world, not only what we produce. And I think that openness, it has always, it's been very difficult to bring artists, to the United States now more than ever. But I think if you say, what do we need more openness in that sense to establish more international exchange so we can learn more about what's happening. We have a lot to give, a lot to show, but we also need to learn and see and receive from other places.
More networks of solidarity in New York City, more collaboration, and very much agree with Tommy. It's different formats of being together, how to make those formats also accessible to people, and how to exist against the backdrop of incredibly expensive city and incredibly high and unaffordable ticket prices at high-end institutions of theater and performing arts in New York City. So it's really also the establishing the kind of connections and networks in non-performing arts center entities, whether it is open space, urban planners, New York City parks, education, to essentially make structures that live their own lives.
Yeah. So, a question to you: how do you select your work? What do you look for when you program your festival? What is for your festival important?
Well, mine is very specific. There's so many different styles of puppetry. It's not, and also object theater and marionettes. There's so we try to not only, in terms of the styles, we want to balance the styles to have hand puppetry, string puppetry, shadow puppetry, object theater. So in that sense, that's different than the other festivals. Obviously, we look at the content, we look at the script, but also the style is important for us. So that's how we curate the shows, the festival.
So mine is also pretty specific because it's Central Eastern Europe. It relates to Václav Havel's, life and work. But it's also very open because we try to have a lot of different style of work. We have clown, we have puppetry, we have music, we have dance, as well as straight theater. And so really, I'm looking for things that speak to the current moment and the political and moral questions that we have today, but can also do it with a sense of joy and a sense of humor to it.
We have a trio of co-directors now: Mark Russell, Kaneza Shaw, and Murrow Papanis. And given the citywide iteration and where Under the Radar is at, there are several factors that feed it. One is, of course, we're going all over the world all the time and seeing work and things that strike us and that we feel would galvanize New York audiences. We are doing everything we can to try to make that work happen. But the major factor with all of our programming now is that we have this partnerships and the collaborations that we're building with each venue. So there's a kind of a multiple routes to how a work may get done, be the idea coming from us to the venue idea coming to us, who they feel is appropriate for Under the Radar programming, as we try to push what is signature, as signature as possible, an experience for Under the Radar attendees. And also keeping in mind that January is this, moment where there's a marketplace and there's a lot of activity around the curation that is happening and presenters coming in from all over the world into the city at that time to take a look at the spectrum of what is happening in New York theater and often seeing things that they may have not seen in other places that are based outside of New York and internationally. So there's a kind of key there. I think my background in booking, I've done a lot of booking all over the world and various engagements and performances and producing and touring work. I'm always looking for that key into how there's how does this work fit? I can't just kind of blindly go to any curator anywhere to suggest something without a real grounding of how that work belongs in that space and in the language that they seem to be developing and are articulating through their seasonal choices or what they might be focusing on in that season, trying to get all those insights into that. But there's the, so it's the sort of creative curatorial end, but then there's the logistical end in terms of the partnership, the venue, what venue is going to work best for the piece, what can you bring to the table as far as a venue that is applicable to the work that you're presenting to Under the Radar, and then of course the financial end of it, which is, that we're all trying to pool as many resources together as we can to make a thing happen, and so we're, the producing bit of that is key to making it viable for us.
With the Down to Earth Festival this year's iteration will incorporate Prelude, the annual festival that Frank has been producing. The number of works in process of New York City-based artists at the forefront of artistic creation, again, multidisciplinary. There is a team of us. There is Frank, there is I work as curator and director at Down to Earth, and also our colleague Ruth Wickler, who is advisor to the festival. The founding and grounding kind of feature of Down to Earth is work in public spaces. And we are very interested, I know it's a cliche word, the placemaking, the concept of placemaking, and how the work in outdoor arts, how outdoor arts can transform public spaces and how communities feel about it. So much of how we exist in New York and even the work that we see outdoors, whether it's open streets, for instance, or any number of other possibilities, is about how the open space is imagined for functionality, navigatability, whether you can sell many more concessions. We are very much focusing on the public space as a meeting place, and the focus of what we are bringing from other countries, and that's outside of Prelude, is on new genres, and especially the kind of genre of street arts in situ, international contemporary circus, that is not very much developed in the United States for reasons that, first of all, the public space is not tended to, just like with puppetry. And so the new forms, probably contemporary circus is the most democratizing art form, but it's also the art form and discipline where the most experimentation is taking place. Even as recently as 25 years ago in France, which counts countless outdoor arts festivals in the summer, same in many other countries in Europe and Latin America. Circus used to be under this umbrella of agricultural stuff. And now it grew with all kinds of networks, places of creation, very vast network of ecology that supports development of new forms and development of the multidisciplinary creation. And I don't mean jugglers or acrobats. It's really, one of the works we will be bringing from the UK called Arch is really an operatic installation. And we are collaborating with the UK production studio, also Master Voices in New York, and it will be presented at Greenwood Cemetery. I'm just giving one example. And of course, the lens through which we look at work is very much its strengths, innovation, its strengths socially, politically, but above all in terms of discipline and creatively, because then that part takes care of all the other messages.
I think at Ars Nova for Amfest, I mean, obviously we're looking for new talent, which is part of the festival's title, but I think that falls into a couple key categories. First, is the pitch familiar with the festival? It's surprising that sometimes there are a lot of applications that I could tell that they have never been to an Amfest show or are unfamiliar with the festival. But those that are familiar with the festival know when an idea would fit. So familiarity with the festival, familiarity with the aesthetics of productions that Ars Nova typically does is what we're looking for. We're also looking for readiness. Does the artist in their pitch or proposal feel like they can execute on the idea? Do they have collaborators? Does their resume indicate an experience that suggests to us that this pitch is something that we think that they can accomplish? And finally, is the piece, in the life of the piece, is this the right opportunity? We'll get a lot of applications of pieces that are on their way to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival or have been there or already have a venue for a presentation. And we applaud the success of those productions, but are more interested in places that have yet to find a home.
So before I come to the last question, maybe just by show of hand, can anybody suggest to you, like write you an email, a letter, or send some, is it open, or your applications?
In our case, we do a call for, and people apply. That happens usually at the beginning of the year. Our festival is every 2 years. It was supposed to happen this summer, but the Clemente is under renovation, so we're moving it to next summer, 2026. So by January, it's open, and it's open, people apply. There's a fee, but it's a $25 fee, and people apply from all over the world. So, and they send videos and a proposal and all that.
My name's and email is on the website, and people frequently just write to me to ask about it.
The Antfest application process is pretty standard. It is the way that Ars Nova encounters artists for the first time. So it is an open application process. It's free. The application usually goes live before the holidays at the end of the year and is due shortly after the new year. and then we'll inform artists by April about whether they're in the festival. This year there were 365 applications for 14 slots, so it's selective, and I also want to just amplify and acknowledge and thank all the artists who we say no to, who could have made an equally powerful festival every single year. There are multiple cohorts of people who could have made up an exciting festival, and our festival is oftentimes made up of people who have reapplied with an idea that has incubated a bit longer, or with a new idea after multiple attempts at that.
The answer is yes. And definitely in Prelude through Frank, who knows the field of creation quite well and who is working in New York City. As far as international work, we have been going to festivals, both Ruth and I, for a number of years to see work in public spaces. And I think the curation, I think, also kind of happens organically. There is particular work that we are interested in, and also a number of companies and artists who we have been following very closely. And in this first chapter, the inaugural chapter of Down to Earth, I think there is a little bit more of our own selection. Going forward, it will definitely be a much more open-ended process.
Under the Radar is open to submissions, the same, similar in terms of having a website, email on website, and very often I get submissions through Archetype, my company, and the suggested works will come through Kineza, or Mark, or Sammy Pine, my co-producer. I will say, just as someone with a background in doing a lot of this and trying to reach people about work constantly for 30 years or so, it's very tricky. We talk a lot about those access points and how to not be obstructionist in any way, how to not be a gatekeeper, to really just open it up and to have somebody give a formal submission and send an email and have us consider every single one that comes through and to respond thoroughly and respectfully to their submission that they're sending us. And we're working on our systems to do that, keep that theirs as every really organization really should, though certainly there are some organizations in the world that get thousands upon thousands of submissions, and it can be very, very difficult. Yeah, our goal is to be as open as possible to any idea that comes our way.
Maybe the last question, it doesn't have to be too long an answer, but so it's very important. What is your audience, or what audience are you looking for? What is the audience you want? You want to move?
I guess I'll say just quickly that AntFest introduces an opportunity for Ars Nova to meet new audiences, in part because we're meeting new artists, and part of the charge is that they would, with this one-night-only show, fill the house with their audience. And so in many ways, we're looking for new audiences with the people that we admit to the festival, in part because it's aesthetically familiar but also challenging.
So we have a very a significant portion of our audience that is immigrants from Central and Eastern Europe, or children of immigrants, and then we have some from the general theater community. I would say that I've been trying to open up the festival a little bit and bring in more of the city, because we get a wonderful turnout from from Central and Eastern European immigrants, but I feel like we've become a little insulated as a result, and I'm trying to expend some effort trying to bring more people in from outside.
In our case, I mean, there's many different communities. Like the puppetry community, there's a lot of people who go to festivals internationally, or people, nationally who goes to the few festivals that we have in the United States. So that's like a captive audience that that we have, and they plan their vacation and their time, to be at the festivals. Also, since we have also, there's a misconception that puppetry is just for kids, So, but we do have 2 days dedicated for kids shows, so we do get a lot of family audiences. Plus, you know, the fact that I run a children's theater, Latino children's theater, that also those audiences come. And the other thing is that our festival is quite diverse, but since it's a Latino team putting it, producing it, we also get a lot of the Latino community at the festival too. So it's pretty diverse, but puppetry community, object theater community, experimental as well, and children's and families.
We're finding our feet as far as where the audiences are. We have a vast audience, and that has to do with the associations that we have with so many different venues. And so we're getting to their audiences plus bringing our own. Our ultimate goal is to have as disparate an audience as we possibly can bring together in all 5 boroughs, and to be traveling and exchanging and finding new audiences who want to celebrate this new work and as wide a scope as we possibly can. And that's what we'll continue to work on.
Our focus is down to earth and specific parks as much as possible that don't have wealthy conservancies and wealthy friends of. It's extremely challenging, but to work with parks that are a priori underfunded, as most of New York City parks are, but there are vast, incredible spaces. And the idea is to have all of us, the diverse communities of New Yorkers, not only discover those places, but also reclaim those spaces and have a different also idea and attitude what a public space can be. So it's very much also reaching out to new audiences. There will be 2 new works from Senegal's only circus company that we are bringing, which will be staged at Marcus Garvey Park. We are also trying to bring a coalition of CUNY stages. A lot of CUNY stages, there is a glut of real estate in performing arts in New York City, including new state-of-the-art theaters built at various colleges and public CUNY system colleges and universities. And a lot of them are relegated to rentals. And so our idea is also to bring a coalition of CUNY stages. The same Senegalese company will be presenting a large-scale indoor performance at the LaGuardia Community College Performing Arts Center, which is absolutely fabulous, great stage. And we hope to actually take New Yorkers out. A lot of people who think that they have to stick to their neighborhoods to, first of all, go to new places, but also the idea is to really bring work directly to, to communities, to work with communities in collaboration, rather than subjecting communities to travel to where you are, even if you are deciding to offer and present the work free of charge.
Perfect. I think this was a good introduction. We could talk much longer. Even if we had each one of you, it would be a longer conversation. But let's change the panel, and then we all come back afterwards. And leave the microphone on it here. So really, thank you. And now we have our second panel. So we have Prototype. Beth is here, so thank you for coming. There's Meghan. Oh, here she is, from the Tank. Nicky made it from La Mama. There's John, an independent producer, who is with us, and then also the Exponential Festival, Nick and Nurit. And do we have enough chairs? Nurit, you have it? Huh? Don't take the mic. Oops! Don't take the mic. Yeah. So give me one. Do you have a mic? Yeah. So again, thank you all for coming and joining it. So I think it's quite an incredible lineup. You know, of really great minds who work tirelessly, really, and anybody who ever put a play together knows how much work that is, but think about a festival over days, weeks, all the intimate little details. So it's an incredible work, often in the shadow, unfortunately, I think, because I think it's central, and this is also what art does. It brings people together. They are compulsive gatherers in one could say. So this is a great calling, I think, also in life. And so thank you. So let me go down the line, and maybe you start. Tell who you are and what you do. And I have my little watch out here. And
2 minutes, I'm on it. Hi, my name is Sam Hood Adrain. I am the festival coordinator at Frigid New York. We do between 5 and 7 festivals throughout the year. They sort of fall into 2 buckets. There is a series of themed festivals, such as our Queerly Festival, Little Shakespeare Festival, Gotham Storytelling Festival, Days of the Dead Festival, which all have different themes that sort of dictate what the work in each of those festivals will be. And then each year, our flagship festival is the New York City Fringe Festival, which actually closed yesterday. And it was this year 64 shows in 5 venues over 18 days. And so that is a much wider, larger festival in scope. We do have some international folks come. We had a lot of people come from out of town this year. We had a bunch of folks from California, all up and down the East Coast, to shows from Cincinnati. So it really is a range. What I would say the 2 sort of big differences between them are those themed festivals are all free to participate in. They are application-based. They generally have between 10, 15, 18 shows and they run for about 2 or 3 weeks. And then the New York City Fringe, but then there's a box office split. So Frigid keeps half, the artists get half. For the New York City Fringe, there is a participation fee. However, the artists get to keep the entire box office from their show, and that is a unjuried, unbiased, lottery-based festival. So it is completely uncurated.
wow, since we have 15 seconds, how many people apply? How many win the lottery?
This year we had upwards of 200 applications, 60 shows got in, and then we're doing this BYOV, bring your own venue situation, which I'd be happy to talk about. The way that it works is applications open on Labor Day, and the first 8 applications in each venue are automatically accepted that day, and then the rest are drawn on a lottery on Halloween.
Amazing. It's kind of the green card model. That's fantastic. Yeah.
All right, we're playing Russian roulette with this mic. We'll see how it goes. Hi. Hey, everybody. My name is Nick Adams. I'm the producing director of Exponential Festival, which is a title I made up. The Exponential Festival was founded in 2016 to remove barriers to access for artists making their early shows here in New York City. And I think we've come to be defined as a kind of multidisciplinary jubilee. We were founded by a person who's not here tonight. You may have known, clap if you know the name Teresa Bucheister. Yay! Teresa, hi if you're watching on HowlRound. Teresa founded this festival because Teresa missed a friend's show, and the friend missed Teresa's show, and so they decided, well, let's just call it a festival, and we'll plan our shows a few weeks apart so we can see each other's work. And it was founded in this venue called the Silent Barn in Bushwick, which was this like cramped little DIY punk club, and it was barely a theater. It was like, probably very illegal. There were people like somehow smoking indoors, and also people getting haircuts during the middle of like punk bands. It was very chaotic and fun. And so because of like the great mix of disciplines happening at this club, I would say that the ceiling was low, the volume was high, the shows were loud, fast, and funny, and an aesthetic emerged where you have dancers who are doing some shtick and Lazzi, you have puppetry people who on the side write operas, so they're doing a puppetry opera, and so multidisciplinary art kind of became our thing at the Exponential Festival. So now we are a month-long January festival for New York City-based early career artists working in experimental performance, and we do that work in Brooklyn venues, and that's our thing.
Fantastic. Thank you.
I'm Meghan Finn. I'm the artistic director of The Tank. The Tank is a nonprofit arts presenter and producer. We have a space on 36th Street. I would think we're like, sometimes I would describe us as like a permanent luxurious Fringe. We're running programming out of our 2 spaces. We have a 56-seat, 3-quarter black box, a 98-seat proscenium, and we do between 300 and 400 unique projects, 800 to 1,000 performances a year.
Can you say it again?
But really? Yeah. Okay, between 300 and 400 unique projects, 800 to 1,000 performances each year. We also have a great studio space that seats about 40, so we've started programming that. We have festivals that we run every summer, which is a great way to get started at The Tank, although we operate on open submissions all year round. But if you have something, it's like the curate. Everything at The Tank is lightly curated, so we're reviewing every script or submission. We work in theater, music, dance, storytelling, film, comedy, and kind of everything in between. But the festivals that we do have, we have a Pride Fest that's coming up. All the submissions for these are open currently. And so we have Pride Fest coming up, and then we have Eco Festival's Trash Fest, which challenges everybody to make work that is completely carbon neutral, and also Dark Fest, where we encourage everybody to kill the grid and come up with ways to do their shows without the lighting grid. And then we have what's called Lime Fest, which is for women and non-binary artists that comes up every August. In addition, we also have a pilot program that I'm kind of spearheading called Revenue NYC, which is a series of pop-ups to essentially take the Tank's model and use it in spaces all over the city. So theaters that have dark space, kind of on a pop-up basis, fill it with artists. So we're in our 4th pop-up right now. These are all being piloted. Right now we have shows happening this week at Art New York Theaters on 53rd. I will shut up, Frank. And then we have one coming up in May at Mark Morris.
Fantastic, thank you. Nicky.
How long do we each have? I actually have a prepared script.
Just to say who you are for 2 minutes, but it's always conversation. We don't read so much.
Okay, good.
Up here.
Because I was given something by my artistic director to read here. Okay.
She should have come.
So I just don't want to be under false pretenses. But yes, I am Nicky Paraiso. I have been first an actor and performer, and for some reason, Ellen Stewart, our founder I work at La Mama. I'm the curator at La Mama, and Ellen Stewart thought, oh, baby, I can't program all these spaces. Why don't you program one? And I said, I don't know nothing. I don't know anything about curation, Ellen. So it was like baptism of fire, and that was in 2000. And I'm here to say that La Mama is a festival. It's a year-round festival. We do 50 to 70 productions every season. And yes, like as my colleague from The Tank has said, we do everything. We do everything at La Mama, okay? So sometimes it's just, my beef is that it's just too much. Look at this. Look at all of our brochures, and which some of you can take home. And yes, we do theater, we do music, we do dance, we do film, we do visual design, we do, yes, everything. Puppets, clowns, you name it. Burlesque, cheerleading we had one year. So, and I'm supposed to talk about, but I won't talk about all of it now. I'm supposed to talk about our festivals within the festival that is La Mama, and 3 of them are our Puppet Festival, which is curated by Denise Greber, and we have been generously funded by the Henson Foundation. You're supposed to say things like that. And then there is our historical queer performance series, which came about because Dan Fishback challenged me after a performance by Peggy Shaw and Lois Weaver. He said, Nicky Paraiso, why aren't you doing new queer work by the new queer artists? And I said, well, let's talk about it. Let's do it, Dan. And that's how La Mama Squirts began in 2012 and 2013. And that's a whole discussion of how we presented the queer artists. And so there would be the young queer artists and there would be the elder queer artists who would be guest starring every night. And then the third festival, which some of you thought, oh, he's just going to talk about one festival, and it's called La Mama Moves, which is our contemporary dance festival, and that's our, the purple brochure is our current brochure for La Mama Moves, now in its 20th year.
Fantastic,
Okay,
Nicky. Let's over about
Oh,
we get
is
the
that
idea.
enough? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Beth.
Hi, I'm Beth Morrison. I am co-founder of the Prototype Festival, and my company is Beth Morrison Projects. Co-founded Prototype in 2013 with Here Art Center. Here has just recently left the partnership, and so this will be our maiden voyage starting in 2026, and BMP will be fully curating and producing the festival for the first time. I founded the festival because there was nothing in New York during January for contemporary opera and music theater. And I had been trying to get my projects into Under the Radar, and I couldn't get them in, and so I said, God damn it, I'm going to make my own festival. And so we did, and 13 years later, here we are. We are a smaller festival because we do works of scale, and we like highly produced work. So we do, well, I should say, historically we have done projects that Here has developed their HARP program, which is their resident artist program, and then my company, BMP, develops new work as well, from commission to production. And so it's been a festival of both of our companies' works, and then also curation, always of an international project, and sometimes other national artists as well. Now that we're taking it on ourselves, that's going to shift a little bit. I think we will probably do less world premieres in the festival and more presentations. We are looking at bringing in companies that we want to showcase. So this year we'll be bringing in Death of Classical, who will do a really amazing evening. We're bringing in Art Bath, who will do a really amazing evening. All of it focused on vocal arts in some way. And typically new work is at this, has been and is at the center. The international piece has always been really important as well. We like to bring work that otherwise you're never going to see it here in New York, and that is sort of what drives us. We are the only contemporary opera festival in the US at the moment.
Hi, my name is John Hoobyar. I'm an independent producer and programmer who has worked with a variety of festivals in New York, such as River to River in 2023. I was a producer at Tanzimagist in Berlin in 2022, and most recently co-curated and produced Prelude Festival here at the Segal Center in 2024. I also work at BAM, where I work in the programming office as manager of artistic planning. Hi, Brian. And I'm here tonight, I think a little bit in a different capacity, speaking on behalf of the many producers who exist in the festival ecosystem in New York, but who are not affiliated sort of primarily or exclusively with a single institution or festival, but who are key to generating and producing projects on a freelance basis for many of these organizations and institutions throughout the city. Just to speak a little bit more about Prelude, since I most recently worked on that. I co-curated that with Jess Barbagallo, and it was a festival of 4 days of 24 performances featuring more than 80 artists here in this theater and also in the second theater over on the other side of the lobby there. And yeah, it's a festival, Elena spoke to this some already, that really focuses on programming artists who are in process. It began, if I may speak on behalf of it, Frank, as a festival that was a prelude to the coming season, as it were, back, I would argue, when that framework was more relevant. Frank began the festival over 20 years ago. And one thing that we thought about a lot this past year is now that we're kind of in a constant festival in New York with performances happening year-round and more festivals in the summer than ever before, I would say, with Little Island, et cetera. We're really in this continuous loop of a festival, and what is the place of Prelude when it becomes more of an interlude within this constant festival viewpoint. Yeah, that's a bit about me.
Hello, everyone. I am Nurit Chinn. I am the co-director of Exponential Festival alongside Bailey Williams, who can't be here because she is performing in a play tonight. Everyone should go see it. Two Sisters Find a Box of Lesbian Erotica in the Woods. And Nick already spoke a little bit about Exponential, so I won't be too long. But I'm very honored to be here. It's my first year as co-director after Teresa Bukaister's left after 10 years. We're in our 11th year of the festival. And just to kind of echo what Nick said, we are a January festival of experimental performance throughout the month of January. The statistics I remember, and Nick might correct me, is that last year we did 21 projects across 7 venues. Great. And then collectively, over the past 10 years, we've presented 250 performances. We are very New York, local, Brooklyn, even though I have a British accent, DIY, scrappy, a place to take risks, which is also a way of saying a place, to fail. And yeah, that's a bit about Exponential.
Well, thank you all.
Oh, I just want to add one brief thing.
Yes. We don't want you to get into trouble with Mia.
No. I just want to say this is a very special gathering. And we all go to see each other's work when we can. But audience, dear audience, you will never see these curators in one room together like you see tonight with panel 1 and now panel 2. So take advantage of us if you dare.
Yeah, fantastic. A question to you. We talk so much about the time, as we call it, after Corona, after COVID, and it's a difficult moment. How is the festival working for you at the moment? How are things going?
I had an artist email me this year saying that January festival season is their big excuse to leave their house when it's cold, when it's dark, to gather in the middle of winter, and this is where they see their community. And I think that's true for a lot of our works. That feels, especially post-COVID, feels especially poignant and powerful. And I know that this past January, we produced, like Nurit said, 21 productions, and I was at most of them, and they were packed, people were talking, and I think I'm kind of reflecting on this article in Art Forum that Howard Fishman wrote called The Small Room Revolution. The idea that revolutions happen in small rooms, and I feel that way every time I'm in a proverbial lobby for an Exponential show. I feel like, oh, this is my community. So that's how it feels post-COVID to me.
So I would say I agree in terms of audience has really come out, and almost all of our shows have been sold out this last festival, which was really exciting. I would say on the funding side of things, it's really hard right now and is getting harder and harder. And so that I think will have implications down the road in terms of how we structure, the scale of work that we can do, the amount of projects we can do, and hopefully, something will change over the next few years, and the institutional funding that has been a big part of the city will decide that they would like to keep the arts in the city going strong.
What about now? Okay. Yeah, kind of building on that, one thing that I've been thinking about a lot is the way that in the past couple of years, it's often felt like when I look at the programming of a particular venue, there might not be so much there, and that's indicative of the funding struggles and the soaring production costs and all the factors that challenge the ability to have a really robust season. Yet at the same time, it does feel like there's more performances happening every single week than ever before. And so this kind of juxtaposition of so much happening and this feeling of saturation in a way that feels good and feels exciting, and there are opportunities for artists and people are making things happen, contrasted with this feeling of lack, is something that I've been trying to understand more of. And I think it's largely about the dissemination of artists self-producing more and doing more things in more unconventional spaces, and then figuring out what does that mean for the ecosystem as a whole if the number of sites where performance is happening and the scale on which it's happening is changed or perhaps different from before COVID, even as the organizations that historically have been the backbone of the scene are struggling to stay afloat in some way.
Yeah, I think the relationship between the kind of work that some of us do up here and the ecosystem in general is that, we're really doing the artistic development for the big fish. And we don't think, we up here probably do, but, we don't as a whole think about the need, the kind of constant need to have artists working and audiences learning how to pay for culture. And that is something that's like indicative, just fundamental to New York. That was the rug was completely pulled out from everybody at once. And then when we came back, the budgets of the bigger fish budgets got bigger, and the funding was harder. And at the same time, the development that they were able to do artistic development got smaller and smaller. So now you have this glut of artists who still drink the Kool-Aid and come here, right? And they need places to work. They need to be working constantly. And they bring audiences, follow them. They learn how to come to see live performances because they follow someone that they know, right? And those people become patrons of the arts in the long term. So it's a constant. I think the relationship between all these things that are happening and the cultural ecosystem as a whole remains to be seen, but I think that's what we need to be feeding right now, and kind of looking for creative ways that we can activate, real estate being our biggest asset of most organizations that have space, right? How can we be, if you're paying to heat and cool it, how can you be activating it to get more artists working and more audiences experiencing it?
Yeah, something happened post-COVID at La Mama, which was in some ways surprising, and then maybe it isn't. And our original audiences, from the last 50, 60 years have been getting older and have been leaving us. And we're always wondering, how do we get the young people interested in coming to the theater? Well, they're coming. And apparently, they have their laptops at home and their movies and their Netflix and everything, but they want somehow to be in a space with other living beings. And that's my whole beef. But yes, if you are here, if the performer is here with one other person, that is live theater. And so it's the last, I don't know what it was, the 52nd season, we had our most, and everyone will experience this differently because of the sizes of the theater and the legacy of and how long you've been here. But La Mama experienced its most financially successful season last season because young people were coming to pay for tickets to see live performance. So that's what I have to say.
I don't think I have anything new to add to any of that. That's all very true. I would say, I guess, just from the New York City Fringe side, we have seen exponential growth since in the last in the last couple of years. I mean, 2 years ago it was a 30-show festival in 2 venues. Last year it was 3 venues and 45 shows. This year it was 64 shows and 5 venues. And so I think the growth for us will probably stop there for now. But we did have record-breaking audiences. We did have, record-breaking ticket sales, all of which went back to the artists themselves. I think where we're really looking at it is this bring your own venue situation where cohorts of artists can come together and do their own venue and then be covered under the New York City Fringe umbrella. That means being covered by our press rep. That means being covered by our insurance policy. And these cohorts, so we had 1 this year. I'm hopeful that there will be more of these cohorts of artists at a much smaller scale, sort of looking at the co-producing model and doing that on a smaller festival model to find these venues and have them be part of our festival.
I'll just add, in terms of like artists' need, that's been like really interesting to like see as we curate this festival, getting to like work across Brooklyn venues. Like we've worked with the Brick Orcs, this was last year, Jack, Loading Dock, We Are Here Brooklyn Studios, I'm forgetting, Target Margin, thank you. It's really exciting to get to offer a framework that's so customizable to artists and like actually support artists in all the different ways they need. Like, are they bringing in like a really rough works in progress that they just want to like try out for 2 days? Are they bringing in something that needs 8 shows and they want press? That's been like that kind of incubation question has been like a very cool thing. At Exponential, I don't know if it answers the COVID question because I wasn't here during COVID, but again, like that hunger and every artist bringing in their audience and like sold out shows, that's been like very thrilling.
I just want to say, what Nicky was saying, it's like, it's so great to sit here with all of you. We never do this, and it's kind of exciting to see what everybody's doing. I feel particularly at home because I have a show in January at Prototype at La Mama and also at BAM. So I'm feeling good in my pocket over here.
I'm just extending about how do we find audiences, new audiences, and so La Mama has instituted this this component, which is now an integral part of our programming, called meetups. So we have La Mama meetups at least twice a year in the fall and in the spring, and anyone can sign up online. And we get all our in-house curators together, and we're lately it's been on Zoom, but I miss the in-person contact with performers, and so I hope that happens again. So we have these meetups, and that's how we're trying to expand our notion of who is our audience and who are our artists. As well. So, and we've programmed at least 1 or 2 people each time. Each curator has found 1 or 2 artists that they have actually programmed into the next season.
So yeah, maybe that is a good question. As before, how open is your process, if I understand right? For all of you, people can submit. It's open submission. But what do you look for, and what do you think theater artists should know who apply to you? Where you say, well, what are they thinking? So what do you look for, and what is kind of a mistake, or what is a rookie mistake to apply?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, there's a lot of different festivals, these sort of 2 buckets at Fringe in New York. For the New York City Fringe, uncurated, lottery-based, we do reserve a little bit of curation for material that we deem to be hateful. We don't want to platform that, so there's a little bit of a filter that passes through, but other than that, truly uncurated. And then for the rest of the festivals, open applications. We just closed applications for the Queerly Festival this June. Applications for the Little Shakespeare Festival will open sometime in the next month. Fairly simple, straightforward applications, no application fees. We announced them on our social media and on our website. I think, to me, having seen hundreds of shows pass through these festivals, particularly the New York City Fringe Festival, where the turnaround time between each show is really tight, we get a lot of shows who don't understand or haven't researched the festival format, and so they have these big, fabulous ideas which would be fabulous, but do not fit the format of you have 15 minutes to load in and 10 minutes to load out. We can't be setting up a new sound system between shows. We can't be storing 30 shows worth of stuff if, everyone wants to bring in a giant bookshelf or a grand piano. So I think understanding the constraints of any of the festivals and sort of what the offer that we as the coordinators, curators, producers have, and then really asking, does my show and does what I want to do fit this format, is the most important question for would-be participants to ask themselves, because truthfully, if especially with the one that is lottery-based, you get in and then it doesn't fit your needs, it not only does a disservice to you, the artist, and your work, but it makes it incredibly difficult from the logistical side, the production side, to be there and support that work when it just doesn't fit the model that we're offering.
I just want to shout out a few people in the audience right now who are Exponential alumni, and that's Matthew and Tochi over there. And we have Yibin, Yiji, and Ruby from Tongues this year. And we have Jesse Friedman from a few years back. And when I'm reflecting on their shows, they're all very, very different and really exciting and ambitious. And I suppose the thing they have in common is that all of these artists in this room are combining different disciplines and have a really huge appetite for bold and rigorous multidisciplinary work. And if you have questions about, how they got into the Exponential community, you can ask them tonight. We just closed our application. We're launching a new fellowship where we're bringing on 4 artists to a producing cohort for the year. They get a slot at Exponential 2026, and then we're having these monthly check-ins where we're kind of helping them prepare all the materials they'll need to self-produce their show. Exponential will present them. So that is our application this year. Nurit, maybe you can say a little bit more about how we're curating and how we're diverging from years past.
Yes. So last year it was all application based, and this year, because there's a leadership change, we are doing a mixture of invitation and application. Did you say this already? No, a little. So the application just closed, which you may have said, and the rest of the spaces will be is invitation and curation based on kind of me and Bailey's networks, and also the Exponential community at large. I think we pride ourselves on being very accessible, and so we've gotten a lot of communication and invitations, and genuinely please do our website, emails on the website, etc. But genuinely reach out, because we love to see work and expand this network and come to see Exponential shows. So that's been a bit of the kind of new curation model this time. And we're really in the middle of it, so I feel like I can't get so specific because so much could like change. But one thing I do want to say that I think is like part of this curation process is like, I think Exponential is interested in like art, creatively stuff that feels very risky and adventurous, and also pitches that feel like we want to creatively push boundaries and like production-wise, like not have people, like artists, struggle and like fail. Like it's challenging. Exponential isn't like a fully produced it doesn't fully produce shows. It welcomes artists who self-produce, and I think there's like a mentorship model that we're trying to cultivate, like helping artists produce their work, but like pitches that can like happen, that can function, that can succeed, that can be staged, and also like work that pushes boundaries within the framework that is provided. So there's like the practical element there. And I just want to say it's really exciting to listen to the different curation models, like from not curated at all to highly curated is like so thrilling to me. Like I think that's exactly right, like in what New York festivals should look like. So that's like lovely. Did I forget anything, Nick? Cool.
Oh, I have one more thought. I believe in the good neighbor policy, and because we get so insular and we get so we hide behind our respective institutions, not because we want to, but that's how it is, because we're all so busy, and we're trying to get these artists' works out there. But this is why I miss Teresa Buchheister, because in the last several years, we would informally go to coffee and just shoot the breeze and say, "Oh, Teresa, who are you excited about these days? And what artists should I be looking at?" I asked her, and she said, "Oh, Nicky, please ask me, and I will do the same of you." So that's how when I feel. Oh, I hate to admit this. When I feel like I'm in a rut, or I see the same artists over and over and over again, because we're loyal to our artists, and I believe in that. And for example, we call La Mama a family because it's a family of artists. But then how do we keep mixing that up, and how do we give opportunities for other artists? And that was Ellen Stewart's mission to begin with, to give space to artists who were not in the oh my God, I'm going to get lambasted for this. Who are not at PS 122, who are not at New York Live Arts, or when it was called Dance Theater Workshop, who are not at St. Mark's Church or Dixon Place. So yes. So what is this? Where is Dixon Place now? So oh, Ellie. No, we love Ellie. So yes. What's happening? What's happening in this landscape that we used to call downtown? We have to share with each other. Otherwise, I think it just goes into the same stylistic cubbyhole. Is that a word? Stylistic cubbyhole, and we don't want that to happen.
I was just going to add that one thing that I do appreciate about my role in the kind of independent freelancer niche that I fill is that I can act as an advocate within larger festival frameworks for artists that whose work I think should be seen and should be presented. For the 2023 River to River Festival, I basically pitched to them a project called Lotta Royale that was a series of one-on-one performances in public space by 17 artists that happened through a lottery model with the audience. I can explain that better. Basically, as an audience member, you would arrive at a hub and through chance procedures be paired with an artist whose work you may or may not know. Maybe you came to see them, maybe you didn't. And through that, you would have an encounter with them. But I really enjoy the position of being able to advocate within these broader festival frameworks for people who I believe in and people whose work should be seen more. I also just want to go back to Sam's point about it being useful when artists are familiar with a festival model in general, but then also the model of the very specific festival you're applying for. One thing that I really enjoyed about Prelude 2024 this past year was Jess and I, instead of reaching out to folks and saying, these are the slots that we have to work with, is there a project that you're working on that would make sense for you to share kind of X amount of material in X time frame, we basically approached folks and said, would you be interested in participating at any of these scales? A longer show, a short 15-minute showing, just do a conversation and not present anything. And then as we heard back from people about where they were in their process and what kind of frame would be most useful for them at the time, we were able to then build the festival around that. And that was another exciting kind of model, going back to Nurit's point about the many different models that we're hearing about here that, yeah, I'm still kind of hoping to be able to explore and foster more for building the frame around the content in a way.
For prototype, well, first of all, I'm laughing at like the 50 minutes in and the 10 minutes out, because we're literally like at the opposite end of the spectrum. We're like minimum 2-day load in, like 7-day typical like tech. So it's great. I love how varied we are. So again, things are shifting now because Here has left the partnership. For the last 12 years, what it has been is they have their HARP program, and that is a submission-based program, application-based program. I was one of the judges for them on their music theater opera, and they curated that and developed those projects over 3 to 5 years in their HARP program. My company, Beth Morrison Projects, also has an open submission policy on our website, and the projects that we put in the festival were projects that we developed over 3 to 5 years. And then we curated a few things that were sort of selected basically through our international connections and going to see festivals and whatnot internationally and bringing that work into the city. Now that it's just us, that's going to shift. BMP is basically closing our submission, open submission policy, because we have committed to 10 projects that we're commissioning and developing over the next 5+ years, and we're going to actually shift and make it an open application process for the festival. That will not roll out this year. That will roll out for the 2027 festival. But stay tuned, and we'll have a new website that will launch in the summer.
I think, as I said, we operate on open submissions. People fill out a short. It's all on our website, the Tank NYC. When I'm selecting projects, and I co-curate with Johnny G. Lloyd, who co-runs the company with me, and my managing producer Molly Fitzmaurice, we're asking ourselves, is this a story that needs to be told? Is this project formally adventurous? Is it trying something new we haven't seen before? And is this person someone we need to hear from, who we wouldn't get to hear from somewhere else? And so those are kind of the three things. And something could be very kind of straight ahead, and we just, it's a play. But it's a story that needs to be told, and it's from somebody that needs to have the platform, and so that's what we're selecting. In terms of Revenue NYC, I'm like, they're fast and dirty. So if you have something you want, when you follow us at Revenue NYC, we put the calls right up on the Instagram. Our email list is growing. You can also get on our email list. You just submit, and it's fast and dirty. We want to get artists in, making work, who are ready to go, who have stuff that's ready to go.
Amazing. This is truly quite inspiring. As a closing question before we come to audience question, and I'm going to ask all the other panelists to come back. Maybe a personal question. How do you guys deal with the loneliness of producing, the avalanche of emails, the overbearing hours? Is it worth it? Or are you ever asked yourself that?
So all you have to do, the email is suffocating and constant. Absolutely. And what the hard thing is, you were asking, what are the mistakes that people make? The sending of a single email. If you just send one, good luck to you. And I know how hard that is, because I know that you're putting your heart and soul in that email. And when you send that, it's such a hard thing for an artist to submit a proposal. I understand that, and I'm not underplaying that. The cure to to the weight of it is just to show up at the fucking theater, because as soon as you see the people in the lobby and as soon as you're in that energy, it's like it feels better than anything. And so that is it in a nutshell. Bye. That's it. That's what I have to say.
Yes, theater is about showing up, and if that's the if that's the one thing I learned in therapy, the best therapist I had is, oh, Nicky, it sounds like you're in a field where you have to show up. So show up, and yes, so go to the theater, go and see things and engage with the artists who are there, because they want to hear from you too. And yeah.
My dad's best advice to me was just show up. It's more than half the battle, so there we go.
There we go.
I guess I would just say that I actually find producing to be a really not lonely at all experience. It's a deeply engaged experience with so many different people who you have to work with to make the thing happen. And from my experiences, that's the case from the beginning of a process. And I think of actually being an artist and art making as often a deeply lonely process. And I think that's one reason why I've ended up on the producing side of the equation, is that I'm so stimulated by being able to work with people from the very beginning of the process, and am so intimidated by what can be, for many artists I know, the isolating experience of making work alone in a studio. Also, I come from a dance background, and we train socially, so to be through the whole process connected and integrated with artists and partners and other staff and so many different kinds of collaborators is deeply nourishing, I would say.
I think it can be lonely. Like, it certainly was for me at the beginning when I started my company, and it was just myself for a number of years. And well, the collaborative process of producing is incredible, and working with the artists, like the sitting up at night with a spreadsheet and trying to figure out where the hell the money was going to come from, and knowing that that was all on my shoulders, and that I had so many people relying on me to pay them and to come through. That's a very, very heavy burden. And now that I have a staff of, 12 people, I carry that burden on my shoulder of paying them and their health insurance and their everything, all their benefits, every day. And the only cure for that is seeking out peers, I think, who also feel that weight of responsibility and finding those connections in your own support network.
I mean, yeah, showing up. I think when I'm like looking at my 6 different email accounts tick up slowly from the beginning of each day, it can feel overwhelming and it can feel lonely. But to me, there's this quote from the late Bob Lapone where he talks about the beauty of theater being the third act, and that third act is the conversations that happen in the lobby after the theater, and the conversations that happen at the bar or at home, or wherever you go. And I think the joy in being able to create the space for that third act, those conversations, is what makes it feel so much less lonely. And I have 2 great cats who love my Zoom meetings, so that's a good part of it.
Like what I love about when we do get the opportunity, and it's become lately few and far between, but when we have the money to send ourselves to festivals in Europe and in Asia and other places. In Europe, the cafe is an integral part of the theater. So you have people coming to the cafe and having a drink or eating dinner or something, and then they go to see the show, and then the artists come out. It's so integrated there, and I feel so at home when we're just speaking to each other. So at La Mama, we always talk about. We all have our individual curatorial This one is in puppets. This one is in dance. This one is in oh my gosh, playwriting at La Mama. I don't know, but yes, this one does that. But it's always a collaborative process. So even though we have our little internal, oh God, I'm saying too much now, internal squabbles. We still depend on each other, and it is a collaborative process. No matter which aesthetic or which where we are coming from in our approach to writing, to producing, and consuming, and being audience members, it's so important to check in with each other. So that's one thing I was required to say today, and I'm glad I got that in.
It's not lonely because I don't have to do it alone. I get to work on it with Nurit, and Teresa's always texting and zooming us, and Bailey's in the mix too. So it feels like a big group project. And I think if it felt lonely, that would be a bad sign, because this is a real, it's a social art form.
Yes, echoing what everyone said. And just getting, I mean, I remember feeling this way last year with Exponential. I didn't feel lonely at all. It was really lovely. I was working more administratively last year, and then January rolls around and it's cold, and you kind of don't want to leave the house, and then you do because you're working for a festival that happens in January, and getting to see the work is just like so. I was just so happy every day getting to do that. And I met a million people, and you're like really part of a community so quickly. And I think also, like, I'm also a writer, I'm a playwright, and I think we're in this tradition where we're like all helping each other because the resources are so slim. Like, everyone is participating in each other's art making so often in the experimental scene, in the downtown scene. And so I mean, it's like we're taking turns sometimes, I feel, at Exponential, helping each other make their work happen. And that's very beautiful to see and to experience and to be part of.
Good. So it's a good profession after all. I want to ask our other curators, come here, join us, and we go directly to audience questions. So no, stay here. Let's put some, yeah. We put some more chairs. That should work. No, stay here. Yeah. And I'm gonna sit down. So maybe it can also be a comment, doesn't have to be a question. Shorter, it might be better than longer. And just introduce yourself, who you are, because Halwan will not see you, but they will hear you. So here, 1, 2, 3, and then.
Hi, my name is Shaul Rick Jason. I'm an actor-playwright based in Brooklyn. Thank you all for being here. It's great to see people from so many wonderful festivals in the city. My question, could you speak to common mistakes you might see in applications and advice you might give to artists of what to avoid that you see commonly when applying to festivals?
If there are guidelines, this goes for any kind of application whatsoever, just read them. Like, start there. And I don't mean that and to be a jerk. It's just that actually will save you time and us time, because we try to put that out, like specifically what we need. Jay was speaking about this earlier. And if you I know how it is. You're trying to get that application in. You've got like your 5 other, your own projects, you're working your other job. I get it. But those mistakes will maybe disqualify you immediately. And it just takes the time. Just take the time it takes to read specifically what they're looking for.
Also, like, know what you're submitting to. Like I said, my company has had an open policy to submit on the website, and sometimes we're getting submissions for like a Shakespeare play, and I'm like, do you know what we do? Because if you did, probably wouldn't have submitted that. And then I would say, like, explain what it is really well, right? So this is a 60-minute music theater work with 6 people and 7 people in the six singers and 7 people in the band. It's covering this. This is the thematic material. Like, just state what it is right off the bat, and then you can go more deeply into it. But I find a lot of times I'm reading submissions and I'm going, what is this thing? Like it's not explained in a way that is concrete enough for me to wrap my head around it. And I love lofty ideas and the artistry and everything, but I also want to know like how many people are on the stage.
Okay, who was two, three, and then you after.
Thank you so much for this panel. And I'm actually going to piggyback off of what he said. Is there any opportunity to get feedback if you didn't get in, if you did everything right, checked all the boxes? Is there any type? I didn't get a grant once, and then they went over the grant with me, and I got it the next year. So is there any kind of room for that? I know you get hundreds of applications, but it would be helpful if there was an opportunity for an applicant to do better.
What's your name?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Valerie David.
Hi, Valerie.
Hi, thank you.
In years past with Exponential, we had, let's see, just take last year as an example. We had 17 voters on like about 125 applications, and they all scored the projects and then wrote notes about, the general thoughts. I liked this part, I didn't like this part, I was confused by this or whatever. And last year, and in all the preceding years, Teresa would send rejections to everyone with personal feedback. Yeah.
Wow, Teresa.
Yeah, and so that's a tradition we want to continue, and it's why in our application, we solicit actual notes from all of our panelists and voters, so that when artists ask, we have we can synthesize and say, 2 people mentioned this thing about your work samples, and then so you can know that. So, yeah.
Hi, my name is Nsari Mofokeng. I just wanted to ask a question about with your programming of international, like getting international works, how are you navigating the difficulty that's been increasing about getting work here? I mean, before even the immediate political situation, but how are you navigating that, and what kinds of things should international works or producers be thinking about and doing in order to get into your festivals?
It's incredibly challenging right now. Actually, we did a piece at La Mama in 24 that was a big piece from the Ukraine, and it was one of the most extraordinary things we've ever done. It's an incredible piece. I'm so glad we did it. It nearly killed us. It was so hard to get the artists over. Obviously, they're in the middle of a war, which made it even harder. They couldn't go to there was no embassy for them to go to in the Ukraine. So the costs just exponentially went out of control because we had to bring the whole company to Poland and keep them overnight in Poland so they could apply for the visas in Poland, et cetera, et cetera. We were probably about $150,000 over budget on that show. And we decided to go forward with it anyway, because that's what we do. But it was really, really challenging. It is just so expensive right now to process visas. They have, the expedited processing, which in the past, if you got your application in 6 months ahead of time, you didn't need to do expedited visa processing. This year, when we had visas from Canada, and we literally put them in 7 months in advance, and we had to do expedited, and then even on top of expedited, a rush on top of that, and so our costs just kept mounting and mounting.
But maybe mention how expensive that is.
What's that?
How much is it? Yeah.
Thousands and thousands of dollars. Basically anywhere between $3,000 and $5,000 per artist, and so it just. And then you're talking about housing and, per diems and travel is so expensive right now. So doing international work at this time is almost prohibitive. So kind of looking, unfortunately, for countries who can help pay some of those costs, right? Some consulates will pay for artists to come. Now, unfortunately, that tends to be a lot of the European countries, right? And that leaves us out of South America and Africa and some of the places, and Asia, places that we're deeply invested in showing work from. So I don't have an answer except to say that like it's incredibly important to me to continue to do international work. It may be that it's something that we're going to have to do not every year, that we do it every other year, or that we're doing smaller projects. Like we've done huge we did a huge project from Africa where we brought in like 25 people to the Joyce, this incredible piece called Sion. And you know, I wish we could do that kind of work every year. It's in this climate, it's just not possible. Add on top of that what's happening with Trump and how incredibly dangerous it is to bring people into this country from non-white countries and Muslim countries in general. And it's just terrifying. And I don't want to be responsible, honestly, for putting an artist through something that could be absolutely traumatic for them at our border.
Look at who's head of Homeland Security at this moment.
Yeah, I actually, it's related to what I want to say. For 7 years, I've been trying to bring a puppet theater troupe from Cuba. And I actually brought them before, many years ago, and they were also here as part of the Henson Festival years ago. That's where I met them. And these people have traveled the world, and 3 or 4 times they were denied, their visa, and they have been in the United States already. It happens that I don't have a festival this year because of what I mentioned, that the center is under construction. I decided to send them an invitation anyway before, the election, actually. And they got a visa, a 5-year visa. So I just brought them 3 weeks ago, and it was like, it wasn't a festival, but, I decided to present them. We did an international exchange week with Cuba, and hopefully, if not, it was just out of luck. It cost me money. It costs a lot of money to, because you have to give them everything. Obviously, they deserve it as well. But it was a wonderful experience. The other thing that I'm glad that you mentioned the consulate in our festival, in the 3 editions that we have had, many embassies and consulate have paid for their artists, like especially Asian countries like Taiwan, they pay for puppet theater troops, and they're already calling me and say, we have 4 or 5 groups we would like to, for you to evaluate. Some other countries as well are willing to pay, and that will be probably the best and the only way that we could do it now. The last thing I wanted to mention, that there's a lot of international artists that are here already, and that's one of the things that we're doing, that we're actually trying to reach out and say, we presented a guy from Turkey, a guy from Italy, and people that were here. And sometimes it's a little guerrilla style, you guys saying, but that's the way we have been able to do this.
Yeah, we've been looking at that too. I just want to say, I don't want to sound like I am being afraid of the Trump administration, what they're doing, because I also think that we have to stand in resistance to that, and the global majority has to be represented here in New York, and we will continue to fight to do that. It's just really hard right now.
And I'll add something very quickly, but because there are so many of us who do bring international work and have a commitment to artist mobility. In my experience, and looking even at US landscape and New York City landscape in particular, it's really about also building solidarity networks and sharing work, and in advance reaching out across the country, maybe Midwest presenters, any presenters who you may know who might be interested in presenting this kind of work from a particular international country. There was a lot of that attitude, oh, we want to be the first, or we want to do a premiere, or we want to, and presenters being quite cagey. And that has been quite a lot of the experience that I had myself in thinking about particular international artists. And at the same time, the attitude that I have experienced on part of Canadian and especially Quebec presenters was very different. It was all about sharing. It was all about sharing information and really working in partnership very much in advance, 2 years in advance, who are we interested in, who we are interested in bringing. And lastly, I'll mention that we have done, when I was at PS21, we brought 3 companies from Africa because we really did have a commitment to the artists. And I want to say that there are governments in Europe and cultural, and there is just a commitment to work from Global South, which Europeans will fund and support, not only visas, but both creation and dissemination of this work. And that's enormous. In particular, I have, of course, France in mind. So that's all I wanted to add.
Thank you. Oh, okay. Thank you so much for this evening's discussion. My name is Ebony Kennedy. I'm a playwright based in Brooklyn. My question is about, I guess, artists who are sort of in the earlier stage of their careers and kind of, you know, early development. Kind of what advice do you have for artists who are still looking to build networks and build relationships with collaborators in order to get to a point where they have a resume that suggests that they can execute? How do you recommend those artists go about doing that? And maybe what resources would you recommend that we kind of take advantage of?
I'll just jump in and say, I came to the city and was a young artist making my first works, and it was festivals like Prelude that helped me identify like who are the players, who are the people in this community, what's their work like, and could I become a stage manager on that show? Could I become, could I help in some way and kind of learn the ropes? That was really important. And then I think finding opportunities to prototype collaborations in a very focused way. How can I get 10 minutes of stage time with this director who I just met? Okay, maybe I can do something at Dixon Place, How can I get 20 minutes of stage time with this choreographer I'm kind of curious about? Is there a festival, all these festivals, is there a place where I can put up 20 minutes of work or 30 minutes of work? I find that that's a really good way to kind of it's an easy way to get access to stage time and to test out those partnerships. That's my advice.
There's room for you. You need to know that, because I think that there's this sentiment that kind of seeps. Certainly if anyone's studying right now, if you're a guest speaker at a school, stop telling them that there's nothing for them, because that's just not a way that we're going to cultivate the next generation of artists. I know times are tough, but we have to cultivate the hope, that we want. Sorry, that's my other soapbox. But the tank is for you, so you should apply to the tank. And if you don't have a group yet of other collaborators, you can just kind of show up. You can volunteer. You can, just come and see things, talk to people, chat up the person working in the box office. That's the kind of place it is. We exist for artists like you to start cultivating that space. And really it's about, like Nick said, just trying to show up at places to meet people, starting conversations. I used to say, volunteer at a benefit at a theater. I used to volunteer at MTC's gala and just chat up who, I can't tell you how many people I met just volunteering at to pour wine, and you just start talking to people. It's hard to know where to go because it's a big city. There's a lot of theaters. You're going to find a theater that feels like home to you. You just haven't found it yet. You just have to keep, like we were saying, same thing with us, but you have to keep going and trying and meeting people and getting yourself out there.
There are 2 incredible organizations. The first is Indie Space, which is a great organization. Yes, we love Indie Space. They do monthly and soon to be bi-weekly co-working sessions where you can go and sit at the lobby of Signature Theater, or they're moving it all around the city now. You can go and sit and co-work with other artists of all disciplines. They do a lot of really great free public engagement work. They also have mental health grant lotteries and a lot of really great ways to meet folks in the field. And then if you have the means to become an individual member of Art New York, Alliance of Resident Theaters New York, they do summits in the fall and summits in the spring where you can meet folks. They also offer all kinds of courses, classes, lectures, panels where you can just, very much like this, meet people. So those are two incredible organizations that are very dear to me and have been integral in my journey being a producer, being an artistic director, and being an artist here in the city.
Sorry, one more thing. All these things here, all these institutions, they started out as like a couple people with an idea. You know, Beth has one of the most important festivals in this field in the world, okay?
Thank you.
And it was because Beth was like, hey, I want to do this work, right? So that's how it starts. All these conversations that you're talking about, so you just need to start getting into those conversations.
Can I add something? I echo everything everyone's been saying. Two things that I just want to add is, one is I think that you should feel always, like for everyone, and including myself, is confident to reach out to people you admire, because people actually say yes more than you expect. If there's an actor you admire, like you might think that they wouldn't say yes, but they will a lot of the time. And the second thing I want to add, and in terms of like, because we're talking about application processes and like getting to know these places, and of course you have to come and meet people and show up and learn about them, but there is a lot of value to applying and being rejected from something, not just in terms of learning, but also because it does broaden your network a ton. Like being on the side of the reader and the curator, I learn about so many artists that we don't program, and reach out to them and think about them and think, these are like, I mean, everyone here and in general, everyone who reads an application is an advocate for artists, and they want artists to succeed and they want to find a home for artists' work. And even being on the other side, I've applied for things, I get a generic rejection, and I've had readers reach out to me to be interested in something. So I just think there's value to keep doing that, even if the disappointment of rejection is very challenging. Yeah.
Are you currently a student? Well, I want to I want to uplift a couple of things and connect them. So what Nurit just said, like reach out, right? Reach out to people that you don't think would ever answer your email. And I'm going to connect it by saying, with the deluge of email that we're all getting, don't just do it once, but be persistent. And sorry, everybody, I know I hate all the email I get too, but this is the only way it works, right? Like, write somebody once, you don't hear from them, write them another month later. You don't hear from them, write them another month later. Write them 3 months after that. Write them 6 months after that. The squeaky wheel does actually get the grease. And people are generous. People want to help the next generation of artists. It's our responsibility to do it. And if there's any way that I can be helpful, or I'm sure we all feel the same. We're all insanely busy and too many things on our plates, but like making room to nurture the next generation is our responsibility.
I mean, this is something that probably you all know, but if you're rejected or you're not accepted in a festival, it doesn't mean that your work is not valuable or is good. Sometimes it could be fantastic, but it doesn't fit the venue. I mean, there has to be a balance in terms of styles and things like that. So reapplying again, it's very important because sometimes you might think, oh, I got rejected. That happens also in the foundation and grants world as well. I believe that every single proposal I send is fantastic. I'm rejected, many times. Well, you have to try it again. I've been in panels. We have to make decisions. There's only space for 5 people, and there's 10 applying. So and the 10 applications are great. So don't be so hard on yourself. Your work could be fantastic, and probably the panel recognizes that is fantastic, but there's no space at that moment. So anyway.
Great. I will just add that continuing to just find ways to make your work, even if you're not getting residencies or grants or other kinds of resources to support it, if that means allocating some of your own personal resources, which I know are very meager for many of us, especially when we're working a hodgepodge of part-time jobs or things like that, to rent studio space and put together your own showing of your own play or your own work and invite friends, and just continuing to make, even if what you're facing is rejection by institutions. I think that just continuing to do the thing and find ways to do it, even if it's not within a kind of established institutional framework, really does pay off and start to yield things over time. Yeah, I think that's really key.
Okay, so 2 more questions. I think 1 and then 2 here and then.
Hi, everyone. Beth, I saw that piece. It was great. My name's Ellen Perlman. I'm a native New Yorker, and for the past 8 years, I've done something which is very different. I've had to go abroad constantly to get my work done. I made the world's first immersive, interactive brainwave opera in a 360-degree theater in Hong Kong. I made the world's first emotionally intelligent artificial intelligence brainwave opera in Estonia with the help of the Estonian government and 3 institutions. I made the world's first biometrically driven AI cinematic opera in Poland. I can't get any traction in this city at all with these kind of pieces. And for the past 8 years, I've gotten a lot of traction with governments and institutions abroad. I'm not faulting anyone here. I'm just saying, I came to this because it's extraordinarily frustrating for me because of the new technologies I use, and so I wanted to address that because I am now developing, with the help of HarvestWorks and NYU Engineering, a very intense AI biometrically cinematic 3D performative piece that is in nascent stage, and I don't see an environment in New York for these pieces, and it's driving me crazy. So that's not to fault anyone.
For better or worse, I'm formerly the associate artistic director of the Three-Legged Dog Art and Technology Center, and I think what you're talking about is totally
So Miss 3LD.
What you're talking about is one of the great challenges of the type of work that you're doing, because of the kind of scope, the time it takes, the space it takes when real estate is at such a premium here. The ways in which we were always reinventing the wheel were corporate partnerships, which come with their own set of frustrations. And certainly right now, politically, it's a difficult time to try to reinvent that wheel. I think that it's like, here you are, leaving no stone unturned here at the CUNY panel. So I think for us, it was always about how can we figure out a way to get this giant thing done? Does that mean we're doing this? We're landing a 3D plane for Michael Kors in China, and then that money is going to pay for 5 shows in New York. That's that was the way. It was it's a very different thing, but it has its own set of challenges. I would say the education you're doing exactly what you should be doing, which is like figuring out how to partner with programs who do have this space, like you were talking about, and do have resources around the technology itself. But I wish you all the luck in the world.
Last question.
Hi, my name is Jess Applebaum, and I have been making theater and performance in New York City for 25 plus years, and I recognize, and also producing, and I recognize that at the festival level, it's bringing work that is ready to show, and at the same time, right now, I think one of the things that's really challenging is that rehearsal space and the time to actually find the places to make the work in order to get it to the place to get it to be shown via a festival is like one of the hugest obstacles for us at the moment. So I'm wondering, I know that some of you commission and do development, then that work gets into a festival, but I'm just curious if there are places or spaces of rehearsal, especially for like experimental work, where you actually really do need to be in the room and making stuff. Like, are there sources or places that you know of, because you're seeing work all the time and you're getting to know artists, where things can start to get made?
Hi, Jess. I want to uplift the West Village Co-op, and they do like, I think, a quarterly application for subsidized space, and then Target Margin gives away like 100 hours of rehearsal space to applicants like twice a year, maybe three times a year. Yeah, Target Margin Theater, I think, gets money from NISCA to provide free rehearsal hours to applicants maybe twice a year. And you can look at their website, Target Margin, to find out more about that information. Those are two I know about that are low cost. And then I think Brick Ox is like $10 an hour, $15 an hour. Yeah, that's what I do. Brick Ox.
Does LMCC still do space like on Governor's Island?
Yes.
They have an applicant process. Yeah.
Yeah, one more to add is there's this great, albeit grungy studio called Shea Bushwick, Chez Bushwick. You pay like a one-time fee of $30 to become a member, and then you get unlimited $8 an hour rehearsal space. And I think it's open 24 hours a day.
Just want to add also that get outside of New York City. Rent a van. There are tons of places, empty theaters upstate. And there are, with gentrification, especially in places like Hudson Valley, there are very wealthy people with kind of barns where they want to have residencies. It's also a taxation issue for them, a way of resolving that issue. So get out there and, not to be cynical, but when I ran PS21, I also gave our space completely free of charge to artists. Of course, our privilege was that we had artist housing on site, but a lot of those theaters and communities do offer housing, even among patrons of those places that live in the same town or in the same village. And I think, as awful as it sounds, but thinking outside the box in New York City, I know it's a savage system here, and the rehearsal space should be inexpensive and should be available 24/7, but it's most likely, without regulation, to find those places outside of the city than
Also,
than
post-COVID, rehearsal space in the city has gone insane. It is like 3 times more expensive, at least, to get rehearsal space. I don't have a space, so we're in that market too all the time.
There's still some spaces at like $10 an hour, or there's some grants that, like at the Clemente Sotoveles, which is where we're housed. Right now we're under construction, but in January, hopefully, there's La Tea Theater, also on East 4th Street, Teatro Círculo and Teatro Iati. They also offer space for $10, and sometimes, they do collaborations. There's a new organization, not new, we've been together for a while. It's called the Alliance of Teatros Latinos. It's the Latino Theater Alliance, and many of our theaters offer space grants and rehearsal space as well, cheap rehearsal space.
I will just say, I think that one thing that we're getting at here with this conversation is that there are so many resources in New York, and part of what the field is maybe dealing with right now is the siloization of how performances, venues, spaces, resources are communicated about. I think the Segal Center is doing the New York Theater listings, which is one site of gathering resources together, but yeah, I think that there are more things. I'm thinking of the Woods in Ridgewood or Oceanfront Studio, or we all could name like many, many different little spaces that are finding ways to offer things affordably or more affordably to the community. But I do think that there's a bigger issue around the communication about all the richness that does exist and how to get that information out.
There's also Art New York. I'm going to point out as a union member, she said you can also get discounts. But Art New York is part of the big mission. They have actually 2 theater buildings they own. They also help to broker space from theaters who now do 2 production or 1 instead of 3 or 4. Of course, Randy Berry, Indie Spaces. Look up the website, Indie Spaces. I think it's .com even. And there's another interesting one called sacredspaces.org, temples, theater, synagogues, and other spaces. And so there is a lot of space out there, but what do we do? What do we with space, with time, with money? It's incredible. So I would really like to thank you all for coming and applaud you on your life's work, what you're doing. And a big applause for them, really. Thank you. And we're going to have a little reception in here with some 3 bottles of wine. I hope it will be enough. So come and now you can talk and ask, and also meet each other, whoever is here in the room. This is a great audience. Thank you for coming and taking the time, and thanks to HowlRound for hosting us. Thank you. Huh?
I'm Charles. We met at the Edward Bond.
Yeah, you came.
The Iowa playwright.
Yeah. You're the playwright.
Yes. Did you ever get my email? I sent you.
Maybe I did and overlooked it.
Okay, yeah. You had told me to reach out about Prelude with an idea I had.
I really apologize.
That's okay. Is your email
Exponential.
Name it?
Yeah.
Yeah. There was an away message from the region. I'll shoot another. I will. Yeah, I should listen to their advice.
Which one is the dressing room?
Oh, it's connected to the colors. I can't find it. I didn't close it.